What the hell is this?
Squidward, Mr. Krabs, Plankton, Paramount. Bohemius's Journal, December 27th, 2025. Tonight, an Australian retired on the internet. Everybody knows why. Oh, you're already here. I've been waiting for you guys. Sorry, let me just... Yeah, alright. Now, where was I? Oh yeah. To all my viewers and subscribers out there, we need to talk. There is something important that I need to discuss with you all, that I feel like I've been neglecting to tell you for a while now. Listen, I haven't really been honest with you guys for these past few months now, but the truth is, I'm deeper in the indie animation rabbit hole than you think. When I first started the Indiehemius review series around 2024, I made it my mission to cover a good portion of indie animated pilots and series I enjoyed, because before that, I became so fascinated at the concept of indie animation taking off for other creators, other than those who built off the community by distributing them like Glitch or Spindlehorse. And when I looked at these projects made by those who made it on their own that aren't as mainstream as shows like The Amazing Digital Circus or Hell of a Boss, it amazed me how much these creators can achieve in making their dream come true of bringing their universe to life and showing it to the public in such a unique and beautiful way, without any assistance other than Patreon or Ko-Fi, or even just basic advertising and Kickstarters. It opened my eyes to the fact that there is an even bigger world beyond indie animation than what's usually popularized by YouTube's algorithm at the time, and many of whom those creators had smaller audiences at the time or were simply just underrated. So to share my love and admiration for it, I decided to create a review series dedicated to reviewing indie animation. Fast forward to the present time where I'm about to be a college senior soon. I have long since quit Twitter and Bluesky for the benefit of my mental health, but also some unresolved trauma regarding some petty internet drama that negatively impacted my mental health a year prior. And now that Indiehemius is back on the menu for season 2, a lot of things have changed for the standards of my channel and its content. One thing is that I've now been involved in the indie animation community more frequently, albeit not active on Twitter and Bluesky anymore, and pledging that I won't join another internet community or fandom again. I found more ways to converse about the state of indie animation and its future with fellow peers who are as interested as I am. Most of it is thanks to one of the very few Discord servers of the indie animation shows I've reviewed in the past, Mammal Squad. And now that I've managed to make it this far, not only have I managed to make 2 new friends out of that server, but now I am involved in a website these two were involved in developing, IOX TV, an indie animation studio and blog website that mostly focuses on animation topics, especially indie animation. I am now part of IOX's editorial team behind those blogs, with 4 other people of course, and now I treat my position as a member for IOX TV's editorial team with pride, like a Reddit or Discord moderator, until I get kicked out and ousted for promoting a shady gambling website or online event that works like a pyramid scheme and make a dumbass video about it. But aside from that, it also allowed me to discover new indie animation pilots and shows that are rising in popularity or that almost nobody has ever heard of despite being out for months, if not years. There was even more variety added to the indie animation space for people to enjoy other than focusing on only the mainstream ones put out by Glitch or Spindlehorse. The indie animation community is even bigger than it was before because of them, and it gave even more potential to have faith and believe in the success and future of it as time moves forward. Even YouTube has acknowledged its impact in their latest manifesto, report on how it became the new wave, when they should be focusing on improving their own website instead of fucking it up by now. it changed the game, and so did my sentiment of indie animation. So to me, indie animation isn't just something to praise and admire for simply existing anymore. The main purpose of Indiehemius now is to treat indie animation as a medium and value that medium as much as the mainstream animation. Similar to IOX TV's motive, which gives me the greater freedom and privilege to treat these newer, rising, and more underrated indie animation shows or projects like those mediums by absolutely judging them and criticizing them like it's a goddamn film review. And today, we're gonna review one of them, Lexie the Superfox. Now, this isn't an ordinary indie animation pilot that one day got recommended to me or just randomly showed up on my feed and started blowing up. In fact, I actually discovered this pilot through the Mammal Squad Discord server itself, where the creator Matt Pan happens to be on the same team that made Mammal Squad. In fact, Lexie the Superfox shared most of the same development crew as Mammal Squad, with the creator, Leah Hall, even playing a major role in developing the story, animation, and voice acting work for it. So I would consider this to be a sister show to Mammal Squad, but don't be fooled, this show is nothing like the former, nor has any connection to it lore-wise. It's completely on its own unique thing, but the only few comparisons I can link Lexie the Superfox to Mammal Squad with is the fact that they share most of the same production crew, and the fact that it's a furry slice of life like it. Ugh. Look, I know I sound kind of bored with seeing most of these shows as slice of lives, especially if they involve furries, but I probably shouldn't sound rude by denouncing them anyhow, since it's no surprise that furries are massively involved in the indie animation community as well. Rusty, there's another furry slice of life cartoon recommended to me. It's indie animation. You're gonna see furry slice of life cartoons! It's not just because I hate them or anything, and I respect people wanting to create their own thing no matter what it is. It's just that I want more variety in the potential content I'm reviewing rather than a mere few genres, cliched themes, and stuff that was obviously inspired by other mainstream shows like Gravity Falls or Owl House or something. It's also no surprise that we also recently have seen an influx of people getting sick of seeing the mainstream content of indie animation so much, mostly the same, that's often been exposed to them to the point where they lose all hope in valuing indie animation together and just start calling it indie slop, going out of their own way to rant on Glitch Productions and Spindlehurst or criticize them in the most immature, terminally online way possible because they made stuff that is overrated, and are sometimes too blind to see the other hundreds of indie animation projects that were not done by Glitch or Spindlehurst because the fandom gets dicey, and the community tends to mostly focus on them for some reason, like it's King DDD flipping over the menu only to find the same 3 indie animation shows.
Let's see. Hot dog, taco, hamburger. Hot dog, taco, hamburger. Hot dog, taco, hamburger. You only got 3 things on this menu!
Maybe it's because you're all looking for indie content in the wrong places, but if you are those types of people, or are against those types of people, or a furry, or a non-furry, or someone who wants me dead before or after this video, I will do my best to make this review worth your while, and hopefully so will Lexie the Superfox, because it's not just a furry slice of life cartoon, it's a furry superhero slice of life cartoon. So let's get right into it. The story plays out like almost any other slice of life episode, henceforth why I classify it as one. The main character has a shitty day at work, so she decides to hang out with her unemployed stay-at-home boyfriend for the weekend to cheer herself up. God, why can't this guy have a job too? Shouldn't he be the man of the house? Damn twink. But then shit goes not in the way they expect it to be in the night out, and shit gets worse when they're sent to jail. And then everything's better again because they get out of jail instantly or something. I don't know, this pilot bears the slightly generic and predictable plot that slice of life shows would usually have for their episodes. Now, I'm not gonna give you a song and a dance. Just kidding. Here's a song. And here's a dance. Hey, come on, this is the earliest Foster the People song I know and my favorite song from them. Way better than Pumped Up Kicks. But in all fairness, I don't really find a problem with that because the show makes up for that by being really funny. This show is hilarious. There is no doubt that this show's humor bases itself around the slapstick of 90s cartoons like Ren and Stimpy or Cow and Chicken. The humor of this show bounces off the walls as much as the animation, which we'll get to later, and the pacing of this show goes along well with it to make that humor work as efficiently as possible. What's even better is that there's an essence of action that's built into the plot as well, because, well, Lexie is a fox with superpowers, that's all. But what's so special to me about it is that it balances the action aspect with the comedy one really well, so it's likely you're gonna get an equal share of fun from both of them while watching this pilot. There's a little bit of action and comedy around every corner if you took the time to enjoy it. One thing I can't really account for in this writing would probably be the placement of the swear words in the series. I know this show is really not for kids, and there's a large chunk of profanity around every corner, but this show's profanity feels a little inconsistent and offbeat at times, and it's likely due to them using that profanity a little too much for their show's dialogue. Even the show is supposed to copy off the aesthetic of liquid television and the ADHD-riddled induced zaniness of the 90s cartoons at the time, if they had the balls. Now, I don't want to sound like the kid that wants people to say no more cuss words, but oh look, here's another song and a dance! But back on topic, I think this show can really benefit by using swear words less frequently and out of place so it can avoid sounding like Hell of a Boss or Has-Been Hotel. And you know how much the internet likes to make fun of Vivzy Pop for equipping a sailor mouth on her shows. But for a generic slice of life plot, they really served it well with its sugar rush humor and balanced action that makes watching this pilot all worthwhile. The animation for this pilot is a whole different story. This pilot really went all out with its animation. My god, the animation is beautiful. It's amazing. The animation literally screams 90s. It's mostly comparative prime fluidity with an impressive lineup of exaggerated facial expressions and body movements, which perfectly fits the physique of Lexie, who is as stretchy and bouncy as ever, and the animation perfectly represents those with super abilities really well. It shapes the environment as perfectly as the animation does for Loki IRL. It has so much brutal slapstick and raw cartoon energy that it makes it look like a high-end TV production of an animated series rather than an independent one. The effects are also intense enough to bring that magic to life. It's what helps bring out the intensity of the facial expressions and character movement as a whole, which makes this pilot even more 90s coded. Another ubiquitous element the animation possesses along with the fluid-like structure and execution would be the textures and overall coloring of it. It bears vibrant colors and masked textures that make it appear as an authentic 90s cartoon a team of animators put their entire effort in making, yet was never really recognized that much by the executives or general audience, somewhere along the lines of whatever happened to Robot Jones or Ed, Edd and Eddy, the latter of which actually working. There is something naturally beautiful to admire about the color palette and unique choice of texturing in this show that makes it look like a complete eye candy, even sweeter eye candy than some of the previous shows I've reviewed. It gives my eyeballs diabetes. I especially like some of the scenes where the characters have no color at all, being rendered in only black and white while merging with the brightly colored backgrounds, and it's really good because it carries over the same fluidity of the characters' exaggerated facial expressions and movement from the rest of the show. For a cartoon trying to imitate the aesthetic of the late 90s or early 2000s, this animation is what the pilot and show really deserves in capturing that aesthetic. It's so energetic like a soda commercial and coated with pure abstraction, and it goes way hard into animating the exaggerated character details and animation so much that you could have sworn that this was a real forgotten animated pilot meant for Cartoon Network's Shorts program in the 90s or 2000s, but never got its chance to shine in the public spotlight, making it lost media if you slap a cheap VHS filter and call it a day, that is. Much better. I may not be a fan of cartoons that try its best to pander at a specific or overrated aesthetic or time period that makes it feel like it's nostalgic for the audience or fits the time setting of it perfectly, and I would argue that there are projects that would attempt to lop on as that embodiment of that 90s aesthetic, with its cheap VHS filter used for shitty analog horror that isn't even scary or story-driven in the first place. But there are times where cartoons do capture that nostalgic essence really well for me to enjoy, and they do it right. And Lexie the Superfox sure as hell is one of them, especially when it comes to representing that aesthetic with everything. Everything you got! And it carries that aesthetic throughout the entire pilot almost flawlessly. Even the pilot's only 3D sequence, which was unironically done by the same animator I talked about in a previous video, JPixel, carries on that ADHD-filled energy and craziness the 2D pilot holds for most of its scenes, even if it's prone to give you seizures. In fact, over half of these scenes are so intense and flashy as hell that they are probably prone to give you a genuine seizure. Aesthetic aside, it's no wonder why this cartoon had an epilepsy warning in the first place. In lieu of its flashy colors and even hallucinogenic backgrounds and textures, it's so intense and trigger-happy that you are bound to get a seizure from it. Although, regardless of me not having epilepsy, it may be the happiest seizure I would have ever had so far upon watching this pilot, and its miraculously energetic and vibrant animation. I mean, fuck me, dying from a seizure after watching this again would be the #1 most desired cause of death for me in the future. The other one being me eating 35 hot dogs at a basketball game.
How many hot dogs did you eat?
I think it was 6, 7!
Or a fentanyl overdose. Say what you want about indie animation and calling it indie slop. I'm just grateful I can find new and underrated indie animation projects like this one in unconventional ways. And I'm even more grateful for the animation in that project, because the animation is truly the best part about Lexie the Superfox. It's even better than Mammal Squad's animation, because unlike its sister show, Lexie is an extreme visual thrill ride compared to it. It's so radical. So now that we've gone over the story and animation, there's one more important question we have to ask ourselves before wrapping things up. What about the characters? Well, I don't really need to tell you much about them since there aren't a lot of main characters to cover. Oh? But what's this behind you here? It's a song! Oh my, there's also a dance in your other one! I just love magic. I think the character design is alright. It's not too well detailed or fabulous as the animation. I mean, almost everyone here looks like a normal NPC, except for Lexie, who's a pink fox with some kind of alien-like tail that makes her look like she's from a different planet. Like, that foxtail doesn't look like an inheritable trait naturally passed down to you by other foxes. But her brother has the same tail too, so it might as well be a coincidence. And there's Vinny, who looks like a dog/dragon hybrid. I don't know if he's 100% a dragon or just half of it, given how he said he's half dragon in the pilot, so that means he's also half another animal. Maybe like a dog or whatever because of the snout. But let's get to the more interesting parts, like the titular character. It shouldn't matter what's inside of the character, right? Lexie's an interesting case for a character in a cartoon that's both superhero and slice-of-life oriented. She is won by being written to balance the everyday challenges of modern human life with the immense yet controllable superpowers she was born with. What I'm saying is that she balances the normal life and its activities with her super abilities really well. Lexie puts up with all the obstacles any normal adult would have to face in their life, mostly in job-related and recreational purposes. Yet she's pretty good at using her powers of elasticity when they're needed the most or are necessary for difficult tasks, and conceal them when she doesn't need them to protect her real identity, even while bearing the instinct and physical capabilities of kicking ass. It's sort of like a Mr. Incredible or a Clark Kent type of thing. Now, I know that part about concealing your superpowers sounds a bit cliche, even to my likeness, but to be fair, Lexie does check all the boxes in being as good as those two aforementioned because, again, she balances her super abilities and instinct with the capability of living a normal life really well. Though I feel like giving her the ability of super elasticity seems a bit cliche, it's quite predictable about what she can do and what she will do in a situation or crime that's happening, especially when she's bulletproof because her body can practically slingshot bullets right back at armed individuals, and she does look like she takes inspiration from other heroes like Elastigirl and Plastic Man, so that makes sense. Elasticity is one of the common public's most desired superpowers anyone can wish for, so I guess it makes sense for her to be like that. But I can forgive that if Lexie was a character that adapts well to human life while controlling her superpowers and finding proper use for them and finds the right balance between them, which in fact she actually does. And then there's the half-dragon twink, Vinny, who isn't even as powerful as his girlfriend, since all he can do is breathe fire, despite not being really good at it. And given how he sounds, looks, and acts, he seems to be a bottom more than a top. Now, I'm not trying to suggest anything suggestive, but oh look, you can have a free song and dance on me. Let's see, you can have my favorite Smash Mouth song, and a dance. That's new.
It's Smash Mouth!
Still, I don't find anything really interesting about him other than being a dragon hybrid, but at least he does his best to support his girlfriend through everything, even though she has stronger abilities than him, and he's often sympathetic, so he makes a decent supporting character. But why the hell is he the stay-at-home boyfriend? Shouldn't he have some kind of job as well? Doesn't man of the house mean anything to him if his girlfriend's the one with a job? And they're both a younger couple trying to make a decent wage while living together? Does he have some kind of remote job that allows him to stay at home, or is he some kind of freelance artist taking commissions? Aw, does the little unemployed dragon need a job application? Either way, the fox is more superior than him, so who cares? And there's also the hyperactive little brother who's a chaotically genius inventor and pays attention to his older sibling despite acting like he drank a gallon of cotton candy sugar before bed. And well, he does get carried away with his inventions though. He is involved in one of my favorite scenes animated in the pilot though. And the rest is, well, background characters. But one more thing I have to say about the characters is that the voice acting rocks in this. This is some really good voice acting in here. The VAs did their best in voicing the characters in Lexie the Superfox, and it really shows. Especially for Lexie, who's voiced by none other than the creator of its sister show Mammal Squad itself, Leah Hall. Her voice as Lexie isn't really that distinct from Doki and Mammal Squad, but nonetheless, it still shows that she is really passionate about the characters that she's playing. The same with all the other VAs and their characters. So for a slice of life furry show with exceptional humor, pacing, and by far one of the best examples of animation I've ever seen from an indie pilot I watched in 2 years, it's no surprise that the characters are just as swell as the other aspects of the show. This show has some real style. Lexie the Superfox is the end result of what happens when I dig too deep in the ever-growing caves of indie animation and begin to look in the right places for creative content. And Lexie happens to be where I struck gold at. Hell, diamonds even, gems, plutonium. It's an extreme, vibrant, cartoony spectacle with all the action and humor packed in one deal. Pair that with some of the most chaotic, outrageous, and extremely played out animation I have seen in a 2D project that captures the essence of 90s Cartoon Network or Nickelodeon, and you have a masterpiece. With other things like the complexity of the protagonist and tremendously splendid voice acting added to give it that extra charm it needs, the pilot's creator can really prove that it can go all out on bringing his ideas to life. even for a slice of life cartoon and a cartoon majorly directed towards furries. Well, furry or not, I would still highly recommend watching this pilot if you want to feel nostalgic about growing up with the same 90s aesthetic this cartoon reflects on, even if you're not a furry. And it really goes to show how the indie animation community can help bring this project to life and shape it the way it is, especially if it's worked on by the same people who developed Mammal Squad, a show I've previously reviewed before. But if I were to compare it to its sister show Mammal Squad, which seems completely unnecessary for this review since I did that to Wastelandia, but why not? Does it have a better story than Mammal Squad? Well, not really in terms of depth and complexity and emotion. Does it have better characters than Mammal Squad? Well, there's just one in Lexie and multiple in Mammal Squad. Does it have better animation than Mammal Squad? I hate to admit it, but hell yeah. Its animation does seem somewhat better than Mammal Squad, but I don't want to sound like I'm discouraging you from watching Mammal Squad as well. They're both equally great shows made by the same great people who I met in the same not-so-great community of indie animation, and I thought I would never be involved in any kind of fandom or community again until a while ago. And after all the songs and dances I've given away in the video, I can tell you that there is one thing for sure about Lexie the Superfox. It's a sugar-coated in awesomeness, and it's super rad. You can watch the pilot through the link in the description below. With that being said, I've been Bohemius, and this has yet again been another episode of Indiehemius. Right now, there are even bigger mysteries to solve, like the origin of this blood-stained pin I found a few months ago. Nothing catches my eye about this artifact more than its message that's supposed to be meaningful to my life or our society, and the human bean juice spilled on it the day I found it off Myrtle Avenue, but I don't know how. There might be a simple petty assault or murder that fuels the story behind this pin, or perhaps there's a bigger picture waiting to be painted. Either way, I like this pin because it is a reflection of me, but until then, I will see you in another review.
Hey!
SpongeBob SquarePants!
That's me!
How did you get in my room? My room is heavily guarded.
Well, you have some pretty weak security, that's for sure. Now give me my pen back!
No, it's mine!
No, it's mine!
Wait, it's yours?
Of course it is! I found it on the street fair and square!
Well, so did I!
Why else would you think I spend months tracking down the location of my pin?
Impossible! How the hell could this be a pin that you dropped despite picking it up from the street? It's clear a person must have died to lose this pin. It even smells like human bean juice.
Try sponge bean juice and Krabby Patties!
You're insane. How could it smell exactly like you? Oh, god damn it! It does smell like Krabby Patties!
I told ya!
So, what's with you in this pin? Because I could have sworn murder was involved for it to be dropped.
Oh, I was assaulted while walking down the street shortly after I found this pin. I schlepped to the nearest urgent health center, drenched in blood after he got away.
Oh, you were attacked. Yeah, no, sorry about that. I mean, it is Myrtle Avenue, so these attacks usually happen often.
No, it's alright. I understand. New York is still New York after all.
Ugh. Let me guess the ethnicity of who attacked you.
Clanker!
Clanker? You think a robot just walked up to you and attacked you for no reason?
No, seriously! A robot literally tried to straight up murder me! I don't know the reason why though, because after I passed out, he ran away!
Clanker.
Can I have the pin back?
Nope.
Why not?
You can't have it back right now.
Well, when can I have the pin back?
Let me see. How does 2036 sound? Is that good for you?
Are you kidding? I have to wait 10 years to get my pin back! Why?
Because that is the exact approximate year I move out of my mom's house and live in Delaware after saving enough money and acquire a high-paying job, dumbass!
This is bullshit! That means you'll be stuck living with your parents until you're 31, you immature chud! And why Delaware?
I just like a nice, cozy little nothing burger of a state that's extremely tax-friendly.
Oh,
Why else would you think that 60% of the Fortune 500 companies have offices there?
Ah, whatever. I found the pin on the ground anyway, so I never originally owned it. You can keep it. Yay! I'm gonna go jellyfishing now. Goodbye, stranger!
Humph. Clanker assaults my ass. No Clanker would dare to walk these streets unless if it was Silicon Valley. Probably some tough guy wannabe from Bushwick or something. Alright, I gotta take a leak.